Okay. So the main risk factors remain hypertension, diabetes, and dyslipidemia, and less commonly are the homocystinemia, coagulopathies, and inflammation. And to remember, these patients are at higher risk for stroke and cardiovascular complications. A very important feature specific to RVO is glaucoma, which is very commonly coexistent and may be the risk factor causing RVO. So very detailed disc evaluation is required. And when you suspect glaucoma, refer to a glaucoma specialist to do perimetry and RNFL analysis. And once it is confirmed that they have glaucoma, avoid steroid intravitreal injections. And for managing the glaucoma, what you have to avoid is prostaglandin analogs and the alpha agonists, because these will increase the risk of recurrent macular edema with RVO. So a large proportion of my patients of RVO have glaucoma. These RVOs can be classified as central vein occlusion, ischemic or non-ischemic, hemicentral vein occlusions, which behave like CRVO, and the BRVOs, which can be major or just macular vein occlusions. With all these RVOs, the problems that we face are macular problems or neovascularization at the disc or in the periphery. But most ominously, iris new vessels and neovascular glaucoma with CRVO and HRVO. This requires a very high index of suspicion and vigilance. The highest risk is in the first few months, but even later on, non-ischemic cases can also progress and become ischemic type. And the risk especially increases when we stop giving anti-VEGF when the macular edema resolves. That is when they come in the second year with sudden onset of neovascularization iris. And then there are many associations with retinal vein occlusions, various arterial occlusions like cilioretinal artery occlusion, BRAO, as you see in the second picture here, the inferotemporal BRAO, and CRAO, where you see a diffuse infarct along with CRVO. Investigations, I will be discussing each of these. If you see the figure here, you see the ischemic edema, or the ischemic appearance on the OCT, which is very common in RVOs. The inner layers look opaque. This is to show how fundus photography is very important. The left eye of a patient with macular branch vein occlusion has exudates. The right eye is asymptomatic superotemporal BRVO. We treated her over 4 years with once ranibizumab and then more recently with Deximplant. And the vision did not improve. Even the OCT did not improve. But if you see the fundus photographs over 4 years, the hard exudates have resolved. So this is very reassuring that, what we have been doing has helped the patient in some way or the other, and possibly the edema would have been worse if we had not treated. So this is very reassuring to the patient also to see this picture. OCT, of course, is very, very important. This is a BRVO with VMT. We started scatter laser for the proliferation, which increased the VMT. And while we were planning surgery, we saw that this had got released with visual improvement. So OCT is extremely important. Fluorescein documents the amount of capillary permeability and non-perfusion, especially useful in BRVO, where we are not clear about the diagnosis. After a few months, the fundus looks featureless, but vision is poor. You can see the non-perfusion, delayed filling of the affected vein, new vessels, and capillary non-perfusion. And also sometimes in opaque media with asteroid hyalosis or some vitreous hemorrhage, you can pick up new vessels and non-perfusion with fluorescein, which you cannot see clinically. But this doesn't apply to lens sclerosis, because lens sclerosis absorbs the exciting and the wavelengths of the fluorescein angiography. Also, you can detect unsuspected new vessels on the iris when you do an angiogram. Now, what is the advantage of OCT angiography over efflorescent angiography? It shows the non-perfusion areas better than fluorescent because there is no leakage which obscures the non-perfusion. And however, it cannot show, the disadvantage of OCT angio is it cannot show the leakage from the perifoveal network, so that it doesn't guide for where to do the laser. And it also doesn't show the mid-peripheral and peripheral new vessels. This is just to show how OCTA can show new vessels and non-perfusion, just like fluorescein. Now, coming to the treatment, anti-VEGFs remain the first line of treatment. We get excellent results with ranibizumab and aflibercept. And there is evidence to show that starting treatment very early gives very good visual results compared to late treatment. 70% will improve by 15 letters if you start within 2 months versus starting later than 2 months when only 50% will gain that much of vision. Now, very interestingly, there are few studies only which compare the anti-VEGFs for RVO, unlike for AMD and DME. So this is one important study which tried to compare bevacizumab with aflibercept in CRVO, HRVO with 362 eyes, and they found that both were equivalent. There was non-inferiority of bevacizumab for vision improvement. However, the story was different if you see the structural improvement of macular edema. In the aflibercept group, over 50% of the eyes had complete resolution, whereas in the bevacizumab group, only about 25%. So it's only 50% of the eyes can complete in bevacizumab completely resolved compared to aflibercept. And then they tried to see whether switching has any benefit in the same group, and 49 out of 362 eyes that did not respond well to initial treatment was switched. Bevacizumab was switched to aflibercept, and aflibercept non-response was switched to Dex implant. So what you see is most of these non-responders were bevacizumab non-responders, 35 of 49, and they all had a good response on switching to aflibercept. Only 14 were non-responders to aflibercept, and their response was not documented to Dex implant. This was another study, LEVO study, which tried to compare aflibercept with ranibizumab and found that much fewer injections are required with aflibercept. As early as the first 6 months of treatment, that difference was obvious. And this has not been previously reported with CRVO. So there is a definite advantage to aflibercept use, even in RVO. Also, the same study found that not only was the number of injections less, but also there was a greater reduction of macular edema compared to ranibizumab with aflibercept. And ranibizumab and bevacizumab were not significantly different for CRVO, but bevacizumab was inferior to aflibercept for RVOs. This is a study which tried to see that if you have recurrences with ranibizumab or bevacizumab requiring injections every 4 weeks and you cannot extend the interval beyond 4 weeks, what happens if you switch them to aflibercept? And it was seen that immediately the treatment interval could increase from 5 weeks to 9 weeks with an average increase of 26 days. And not only was the interval increased, but there was a further improvement in vision by 6 letters and a decreased CRT by 152 microns. So here again, aflibercept has several advantages over the other two drugs. It increases the macular edema-free interval, minimizing treatment burden. So what is the role of steroids? It remains a second choice to anti-VEGFs, and I would use it when anti-VEGFs are contraindicated, as in recent cardiovascular events, pregnancy, and nephropathies, or when there has been a suboptimal response to 3 injections of anti-VEGF, or when there is a peripheral traction with active new vessels where anti-VEGF can cause increase of traction. There you must start laser and give a steroid, or cataract surgery is planned because their steroid will cover the inflammatory component. In vitrectomized eyes, it may have a long half-life, but aflibercept also does well in vitrectomized eyes. Steroids have to be avoided when we suspect glaucoma, which is very common in RVO, or when there is a history of intraocular infections or an immunosuppressed patient like history of CMV retinitis in HIV positive, or there's a large PC opening where it can come into the AC. Now, what is the role of lasers in vein occlusions? I think I'm running out of time. So while the BVO study did recommend laser for BRVO, there are more recent studies where at the time of the BVO study, there was no anti-VEGFs, but the recent studies have found no benefit for adding macular laser in terms of improvement in vision or reducing the number of injections. In CRVO, even the CVO study did not find any benefit. Now, importantly, follow-up of RVO requires not only vision, but IOP, especially for patients with CRVO and HRVO. There is a high risk of new vessels in the iris. So every visit, undilated iris examination and gonioscopy, so that we can pick up early neovascular glaucoma and treat in time. And very important to look at the fellow eye, because often there is an asymptomatic RVO in the other eye, as you see in this case. The right eye has a BRVO and the left eye has proliferation. In the young, it is usually idiopathic inflammation or inflammation secondary to other diseases, or blood dyscrasias, leukemias, oral contraceptive pills, or sildenafil use, and nowadays post-COVID and post-vaccine. Most of these patients are asymptomatic and do well, may require steroids if there is idiopathic. This is a post-COVID vaccine young lady with CRVO and inferotemporal BRAO, with rapid resolution of symptoms on oral steroids and anticoagulants. So should I continue for half a minute or stop?
Half a minute you can continue, but beyond that is...
Yeah. Okay, this is a case to show an elderly bilateral RVO, vitreous hemorrhage in the right eye, so I operated. The left eye had a CRVO which had just received an injection ranibizumab a day before coming to me. So we operated the right eye and it was found to have multiple BRVO. But as we finished surgery, patient complained of complete loss of vision in the left eye. And what we saw is that this CRVO had progressed to ischemic form with a massive edema which was not even covered in the field. We gave him again aflibercept and treated with PRP, but we lost that eye and it was only PL. So even after ranibizumab, you can have a conversion from a non-ischemic to ischemic CRVO. So this has to be always kept in mind. This is again a patient with left eye already having neovascular glaucoma, right eye CRVO, and if you see there is a pre-retinal hemorrhage. So I already knew the prognosis was very guarded, did an angio, there were no new vessels, but I did a PRP and aflibercept and Lucentis anyway, because I suspected it will progress. And despite our laser and anti-VEGF, you can see that in 2 months' time, he came back with neovascular glaucoma in this eye. So very, very high risk for neovascular glaucoma in CRVO. You have to be very vigilant.